Hello and welcome to my first YouTube live video for Inner Life Sanctum. So I speak about um, fear and some of the ways of releasing fear that I found effective. I'm particularly speaking here to the spiritual community. What I see is that many spiritual people are the more sensitive, often empathic, intuitive types, and we can find ourselves dealing with fear and not even know that we're dealing with fear. We can have like quite large accumulations of fear in the body that can be really affecting us. So I wanted to talk a bit more about fear, how fear works in the body, and some ways of releasing fear. So I hope you find this helpful. Okay, so fear is part of our instinctual survival mechanism where, this was designed really for us as primitive man, woman. So when we're out in the jungle and tiger was running toward us, so we would get that adrenaline rush that would help us to fight or to flee. Or perhaps, a rock fall. So our instinctual system was designed really to respond to this type of real fears. And not a lot nothing's really changed in the way that our system works in dealing with fear, but the type of fears have changed. Often we're not in a situation where it's appropriate to deal with the fears through fight or flight. It's often more subtle types of fears we're dealing with. We might be dealing with fear of losing a job, or fear of change, or fear of something financial. So these can be more subtle forms of fears that are just sort of sitting there for some time rather than acute type fears. And yet these fears can still trigger this same adrenaline release that is meant to be discharged. So how the instinctual system works is that when there's fear and we discharge that through running or fighting, there's a discharge of the energy, right? So it needs to be released from the body. But when we have these sort of ongoing fear situations, or even we might have acute fear situations, but we don't fully discharge the fear, it's just going to sit in the body. And over time, that's creating, contributing to stress, to anxiety. So just a constant sense of anxiety and underlying fear might be sitting there in the system. It also has a frozen sort of effect. We're sort of going into that instead of fight or flight, we're more in that frozen, which is the third response to fear, a frozen response, which again needs to be released from the body. So what's happening is that we're sitting with that frozen response in the body. That's accumulating. The fear's just sitting in the body. The built up energy charges of adrenaline and any energy related to the fear isn't being released. It's just sitting there in the body. And that can really contribute to stress. It can also, especially speaking to spiritual, sensitive, empathic people, it can be, we can just get so used to the fears that we're just disconnecting from it, switching off from it, numbing to it. So that we're not realizing that it's actually, we've got this fear sitting in our body that's stopping us taking action, that's creating stress, that's really interfering with us moving forward in life. I've seen this so much that people have this level of it can be quite high level of fear in the body, but they're just feeling stuck. They're just feeling like, oh, why can't I do anything to move forward? Why isn't my life, why aren't things happening? Why am I having trouble being motivated? Why am I having trouble moving forward? I experienced this in my life after I'd moved. I'd moved to the coast and I'd created, the life that I thought I wanted. Living by the coast, beautiful home, ready to do my work. But I had so much fear coming up. I didn't really realize actually that there was so much fear. Everything on the outside looked good. What was to be afraid of? Failure, perhaps, but there's always things to be afraid of. But I wasn't recognizing the high level of fear that was just sitting in my body, and I started to do some tapping and release work, and I began to realize, wow, what a huge amount of fear was sitting in my body as I released it. I realized it was a little bit, but it was actually a huge amount of fear, and I was just feeling stuck. I was feeling like, oh, it's so hard to make progress and move forward. I feel nothing's moving. I feel really stuck and stagnant and hard to just move things forward. But it was the fear. The fear was really lowering my vibration, making things really hard work. I see this a lot, and I see people not really realizing it's the fear. So that's why I thought I'd speak about it and speak about, how fear works in the body. So fear needs to be discharged, and it's often because this discharge of energy hasn't happened. So we need to find some way to do that. Of course, we can see a therapist, always recommended, especially if there's been some acute fears, to go and see a therapist. And there are some self-help things that we can do too that I found really effective. So the things I wanted to talk about that you can do to assist are tapping and essential oils. So tapping, many people are familiar with tapping. A lot of people know going through the circuits of tapping the different points. And the way that's great. That works really well. Tapping is a great tool for releasing fear. It's really effective, or any other emotional residue. So the way that I work with tapping is just to tap on one of the points and to talk through the fear. So if you just start talking, so the tapping points might be one on the back of the hand there, or it might be just here. They're probably easier ones to work with, or any of the other tapping points next to the eyes, under the eyes. So just any of the points, and just talking through the fears. You can go through the whole circuit if you like. It's a really great energy circulator and clearing through the whole meridian system. It helps the whole functioning of the meridian system. So you can just talk through the fears, and as you start talking through and just tapping, you'll find what comes up, and just talking through that, preferably out loud, or you can write as well, and just talk through, and might be something like, I'm feeling really concerned about, whatever that is. I'm concerned about, something job related, or something relationship related, or something financial related. And as you talk about it, talk about what comes up. It gives expression to it, and tapping will help release it from the body. I also recommend that after talking through the fears with tapping, you start to bring in some positive wording. So it might be something like, I'm ready to let go of these fears. I don't need them anymore. I'm starting to feel better and lighter as I let go of these fears. I'm looking forward to feeling more positive and brighter. I'm starting to feel a bit positive and brighter already about my future, about everything. I'm just feeling lighter. So there's a bit of a quick guide to a simple way of working with tapping to release fears. And I just wanted to talk also about essential oils. A few of the essential oils, there's many wonderful essential oils, but there's a few that I really like to help with releasing fear. You can use these on the soles of the feet, just underneath the feet, just a drop, or you can use a drop or two in the bath, or you can use them in a diffuser. So whatever works for you. You can use the essential oils, sandalwood, frankincense, lavender, chamomile. I think that's the main ones I like to use. Some notes here, I'll just check that. Other ones did I write there? Cedarwood. Yes, beautiful cedarwood, very earthy and supportive and comforting. So, they'll help to really support your system, to relax and to just really support in different ways. Lavender's very relaxing. Roman chamomile will really help to calm down and relax. They'll help emotionally, as well as they'll help the body deal with the fear, release it, feel supported. So that's just a quick video to speak to something that I find actually, quite a common problem in the spiritual community, because many of us are sensitive and really feeling things, and we can end up carrying all that fear in the body and not be releasing it. So there's some tips for you. Thank you for joining me.